All right, we're back here on the Chase Thomas podcast, taping this on a Wednesday afternoon. First timer, Kevin Moranz of Supercross Live. He is here. He is traveling. He is getting ready to depart. He's gotten a week off. He's got some time to recoup. He got to go back to Topeka, Kansas. How are you, sir?
I'm doing good, man. You know, like you just said, pretty much just said everything that we've been going through. It's been a long season, but we got more racing left, and you know, it's gonna be exciting.
What has been your favorite part of this season for you?
The progression, really. So, like, we're coming off one of our best weekends, at least most significant weekends, let's put it that way. End result maybe was not the best that we've had, but we actually ended up getting the whole shot. So we were out front in the 450 main event for the first time ever this past week, which was really exciting. A lot of publicity behind that. So, you know, things have been going good. We just got to keep it rolling.
What do you like most about the Seattle track?
I like the long start stretch, so that obviously helped me. Usually you would think that it would not, considering I'm a privateer, which means that I do not have factory support. I am not on a big factory team, more or less doing it myself, and I have a stock motorcycle, more or less. So you think a longer start stretch would hurt somebody more that's on a stock bike against the modified engines and everything that these guys have. I don't know. Somehow I made it work, and I was all about it. So, you know, other than that, the fans were great. And yeah, just getting that experience, getting out front and having that first time experience was really big.
Where's your favorite place to race?
Ooh, my favorite place, we don't go there anymore, but is I think it's the Mercedes Dome or whatever. It's the dome that's in Atlanta.
Oh, you're talking about the Georgia Dome. It's gone. Yeah, it's down. That's where I'm from. I'm from Atlanta. Yeah, the dome's a goner. They blew it up.
What?
Yeah, the Georgia Dome got blown up, man. It's now Mercedes-Benz. Yeah.
No, so I think we raced in the Mercedes-Benz.
Oh, yeah. When it was closed. Yeah. I was thinking because I went and saw y'all at the Dome back in the day, and there's a couple other. I think Cade mentioned that he loved the Dome. Like everyone liked that one more than because the feel was better. Like it's just more corporate-y, and you're farther away in Mercedes-Benz. It's too nice. Like the Georgia Dome was grimy. It was more earthy. You felt more like you're actually on the track with the racers.
Okay, I feel that. I don't think I wasn't racing when they were in the Georgia Dome.
Yeah.
Whatever. I only started racing Supercross 4 or 5 years ago.
I'm not even sure you were alive.
Yeah, exactly. So no, it was good. That was honestly probably one of my favorite stadiums. Yeah, it was a very high quality. It was a nice stadium, but the biggest thing for me was how I thought it was a pretty big stadium, but the fans there, that was the one main event that I was on. This was when I was still on 250s before I moved to the 450s, where I was on the start line and all of us were like obviously revved up, getting ready to take off. And like, I could almost hear the stadium and the fans more than I could hear my bike. And I've never experienced that before. So I was like, that was pretty badass.
Do you like that, or do you like it sounds more like you want intensity. You want things to block out your mind. So you're focused on the noise and you're not thinking about the race itself. Yeah, that's actually an advantage.
Yeah, exactly. So, I mean, this was prior to the gate drop. So obviously the gate drop, you're kind of locked back in. But like, even when the 30-second board goes sideways and we're all starting to rev up, like everybody just started cheering. It was pretty cool. So like, you had to focus real quick after that, but it was just like a cool feeling for me. And that was, 3 years ago. So it was kind of like one of the first experiences I've had. So yeah, it stuck out to me.
Well, I think you're going to Atlanta in a couple of weeks, right? You're going to be at Atlanta Motor Speedway, outdoor though, a little bit different.
Indeed.
Not as big into that one.
No.
I can tell.
Well, the biggest thing is last year there was rain that was involved, which the track crew, it ended up being an amazing race, but it's always a toss up going into it of what you're going to get. You know what I mean? When you don't have a dome over you.
So what's the best kind of weather for an outdoor race for you?
Probably at least for Supercross, like it's not super gnarly. Even if it's hot, you're not out there for very long kind of deal. So I would say, sunny and 70, about perfect.
We're about there. I mean, at least you're not in the Masters this weekend because it's going to be rainy in Augusta. Atlanta, I don't know what it's going to be like in 2 weeks for you.
It's a toss-up. That's the problem with going outdoor racing when it comes to Supercross, because obviously when we race outdoors, which the whole SMX Supercross motocross is kind of intertwined this year, the full series, once you go outdoors, it's a little bit different. The tracks are more tame. There's bigger sloped and jumps, everything like that. Like in Supercross, it's a tighter stadium, a lot steeper jumps. You're going a lot higher, a lot more risk of casing and having problems. So when you throw wet water, muddiness, slipperiness into tight corners and hitting big jumps right out of tight corners where you have to have good traction to get over those jumps. As soon as it gets wet and rainy and you're questioning whether you're going to get traction or not, it's always a sketchy situation.
What kind of clay were you growing up riding on in Topeka? What I don't even know what the clay is like in Kansas.
Not so much clay. Like, so I rode on a lot of black dirt. So it's very dark, but at the same time, I guess you could think of it's like clay, right? So imagine like it's like brownie mix, brownie powder, like super good when it's prepped perfectly, but so it's tacky. It's black dirt, I guess. So it's kind of like clay in the sense that once the ruts form and then there's not really water on it, it turns to pretty much concrete. So harder base, all those kinds of situations is more of what I've ridden on, not so much the sandier, softer soil.
Growing up in Kansas, start when you're 4. I mean, what got you into Supercross originally and just riding dirt bikes? And how was that advantageous for you to grow up in that part of the country and racing?
So that's kind of difficult. So I moved to Manhattan or to Topeka, Kansas. I was born in Manhattan, Kansas, which is only like an hour away. Moved
Kansas
to Topeka.
State.
Yeah, exactly. That's where my brother went to college.
There you go. So, the little apple.
Yeah. So, long story short, we moved there when I was like 2, 3-ish, as long as I can remember, obviously. We went over to meet our neighbors, which are the Titmans and Timmons. So we kind of had a little neighborhood of riders, I guess. But when we went over to meet them, their kids were on little like P-dubs and 50s and stuff. So like you gotta imagine me, I'm 3 or 4 years old. My brother's 4 or 5 years old, 6 years old, something like that. Like we're 15 months apart. So I obviously don't know when we went and saw them. But long story short, we're little kids. We see other little kids on dirt bikes and we look at our dad, we're like, yo, we want those things. And then, so that's kind of how it started. We were just racing locally with our little, neighborhood squad, I guess, going to the local tracks and racing and riding during the week. And it's just kind of grown from there. And then we started going to Loretta's, which is the amateur national, as all kind of a group. And then, once I graduated high school, I decided I wanted to try to take this seriously and started traveling the whole circuit situation, building a name for myself. And here we are today.
What do your parents feel about it? Do they watch? Are they nervous? Like, do they give you pointers? How does that go?
Yeah. So my dad obviously is kind of like my right-hand man all the way through racing. He was always the one that took me up to the line and everything like that. They don't have like the freedom to be able to come to all the races that they want to come to. So they watch primarily on TV. They come to maybe 3 or 4 races a year, at least Supercross a year, and then maybe an outdoor or 2. So, 6 races a year kind of deal out of the 30 that we have. So they watch on TV a lot of times. They're very nervous. My mother is an absolute mess. My dad is kind of, a little bit more chill. He's been around me a little bit more in the racing scene. So yeah, it's obviously stressful for them, but I think they're pretty, at least at this point, because obviously when I turned, 17 when I was graduating high school, and I pretty much was like, hey, like I'm going to go pursue this because I really like this. And obviously I've been doing good at it the last couple of years, kind of growing a name in the amateur ranks. So it's time to go professional. They were pretty much like, if you want to do this, you've got to find ways to support yourself to go do it. Like we're getting ready to help your brother go into college. So neither of my parents like own their own business or anything like that. So that's why they don't have a whole lot of freedom. So obviously money was tight. So I had to get creative. And that's why I created a bunch of things within my program, which is kevinmoranz.com, which is all the information on my program. But, that required me to go business to business pretty much in Topeka, my little local area, rally up some support. Obviously, when you're going through that situation, like salesman, like you get told no 99 times, but you get told yes that one time, and that's that one time that you need. So I learned a lot doing that and just kind of grown my program since then, doing helmet wraps per round for different companies, bike branding, Patreon, so fans can get included and actually support me on a monthly basis. And at certain tiers, they can get their names on my bike. A lot of different cool things like that to fully fund my own program. And so I'd say my parents are pretty proud of that.
Man, you're just ready for your post-media or your post-career in media. Like you've got your own like that's what's going to happen here is you're just going to have your own thing. We're going to see you and Bubba you've created your own podcast network and all of that. And you're selling the ads. They're just James and everybody, Ricky Carmichael, they're just all doing their own shows on your network. And you've got all the advertisers. I see what the long game is here.
Yeah, exactly. So I've actually had a lot of people tell me that too. So obviously we're in the game. We're, going after results right now.
Mm-hmm.
So I'm not really stressing too much about what I do in the future because I feel like I've got a lot of different avenues, and obviously the companies I've worked with, the way I can kind of talk in front of a camera and stuff, I obviously exploit that to help me with sponsorship. But we're going for results and having fun with it for now.
What's been the gnarliest injury you've ever had?
Obviously a lot of racers, we hit our heads a lot, which is not very good. But I compound fractured my tib fib in 2018, which was my rookie year going into Supercross. So November of 2018, training Supercross, getting ready to go to Supercross for my first year. Had that whole scenario happen. So that threw me into coming into Supercross late, getting a couple rounds, and then moving into outdoors that year. So that was probably the gnarliest one I've experienced.
Do you think about it at all when you're riding? Like, do you think I got to be careful with this turn? I got to be careful with this jump. Like, is that even in your mind, or are you just what? Like, I've always been so curious about this. Like, what's going through your mind?
No, not really. I mean, obviously, as soon as you come off that injury and you're trying to get back in the game, more or less, it's a thought that goes through your mind. Like, it's still tender. It's still like kind of painful. Like, you don't want to do anything stupid. But, once you get a year past an injury and you're not feeling effects more or less of it, it kind of escapes your mind. You're just kind of back to focus mode. Like, you understand, like, you're not going to risk it too much. Like, that's what I think a lot of these guys that are getting older in their careers, they've had gnarly injuries. So then they're not still sending it like these young bucks that haven't had the injuries yet. It's because they're a little bit wiser. So it could obviously not make them as competitive because they're holding back a little bit. But at the same time, that's only if you've had like several injuries to the same spot over and over again. More or less, a lot of racers in our industry, at least at our level, are just kind of scraping it. Don't think about it, because if you think about it, you're not going to be one of the people in the main events kind of deal.
What are you thinking about it? Like, not from the injury front, but just like when you're going out, like, do you listen to something to get you hyped before race time? Or are you just quiet time to get ready? What's your pre-race and then the gate drops? What are you thinking, and how do you get ready for it?
So going into, let's just say like the first, let's say 30 minutes before, right? So 45 minutes before, you get kind of like a little warm up if you haven't already raced that night, or obviously if you say we're going into the main event, right? So you get a little bit of spin, you just kind of get warmed up a little bit, you go up to the line, and then honestly, like the, top 10 and back of the main event. So the main event's 22 riders, the best 22 riders in that given night, more or less, from all over the world to an extent, because kind of like what we explained is, we are racing the NFL of our sport. And imagine all of the NFL, there only being 22 people that can play or like have a shot in a given night. So like that's the cream of the crop are in the main events to an extent. So when we're going up to a main event, honestly, like there's a lot of people that are just good friends up there. So it's kind of, unless you have a gnarly night getting to the main event or a scenario happen, like you're always kind of up there goofing around, not goofing around, but like you're having conversations, looking at the track, but also conversating and trying to have a good time. Cause like it's a stressful night, right? So that's probably 30 minutes to 15 minutes before gate drop. 15 minutes before gate drop, everybody kind of shuts up and just focuses. And then, 5 minutes before gate drop is usually you have your sight lap, you come back, and then we swap out goggles, make sure I have a fresh set of goggles so that if I got sprayed during the sight lap or anything like that, we're solid there. Few words exchanged between my mechanic and I. We set the whole shot device, and then from there, I have a little handshake that I always do with whoever's helping me, that I always did with my dad back in the day. So do that, and then it's just full focus mode on what I have going on for the next 3 minutes before the gate drops, and that's pretty much what it is.
Who's the funniest? Like, when in that 30 minutes before, who really keeps the mood light?
I don't know how much you know about our industry and whatnot, but Aaron Plessinger is obviously a fan favorite. AP is pretty funny. Shane McElrath, I talked to him quite a bit on the line. Kyle Chisholm, like there's like Benny Bloss, Grant Harlan, Josh Cartwright. Like there's a bunch of guys that Cade Clayson, like you said, that all of us kind of BS on the starting line.
Cade's funny, man. Yeah, Cade is a funny dude. And also, like, I don't even know what happened to him. Was that like his Instagram post of him and the gnarly? Just gnarly looking.
Yeah, because I don't even know what like the whole situation was. Besides, obviously he had a chest tube in, so I'm.
I would look at him like, but he's just smiling, having fun. Like it's just a different breed, man. Some dudes are just built different.
For real.
I don't know. Well, that's funny. I mean, and then you have like Jett, where you're like, hey, do you want to sit this one out? Like,
Yeah,
hey, are you sure? Like, what if you just took this one out? Like, just
yeah.
come on, just
And
sit this one
Jett,
out.
like Jett, he rides. So I'm staying down here in Florida with a family that trains at Jett's compound and whatnot. So, and Benny Bloss trains there as well. So, like when we fly out of Tampa, a lot of times it's either with Benny or Jett is on our flights as well. So, it's pretty fun to be able to talk with those two guys. And, you know, obviously Jett being Jett at this point, just kind of getting a scope of what goes through his head and how he's just so much of a kid still, but yet he's such a massive figure in our sport. It's pretty cool to see.
You got lucky with the name. Jett Lawrence is just it's a cool star name. Like it's there can't, like, Kevin Moranz is a good star name, but there's some out there where you have the name like Chase Thomas is not going to be a superstar Supercross guy. That's not the name. You need Ricky Carmichael. You need, some names are just, they pop and you just hear it and you're like, oh, that's a star. Like Eli Tomac. That's a star name that stands out. You can't just be Bob Wilson in this sport. Jett Lawrence is just like out of a movie. When you just see it and you're like, there's no way. Jett Lawrence, that's like a football name, and you played football, right?
Indeed.
Did that help?
I think so. Like, I think that's obviously given me, because I have a little bit more of like a build than most racers, but unfortunately, there are crashes in the sport that happens to everybody, and I think that's helped me a lot in the past, is having a little bit more muscular build to absorb some of those impacts and keep my body intact to an extent. But yeah, I played football. Football is definitely my second favorite sport. Do
you still keep up with it?
Yeah,
NFL guy, college guy. What are you?
NFL primarily.
Chiefs?
Chiefs for
okay.
sure.
So this was a good year for you.
Yeah, dude, it was a great year. Patty Mahomes, baby. No, I played football all the way through. You know, since I was fourth grade all the way through senior year of high school. So that's what kind of held me back a little bit from the normal motocross career. Because a lot of kids, you know, start homeschooling, do all these amateur nationals before they go pro. I was primarily, like, school came first to an extent, and I obviously loved playing football. So we would just do like Loretta's every year. We'd do that one amateur national. Besides that, it was, you know, school and playing football and whatnot. So that's definitely my second favorite sport. Like I said, nothing makes me happier than when fantasy football season rolls around and I get to play fantasy with all my boys and whatnot. So yeah, definitely.
Is there a Supercross fantasy league?
Yeah. So PulpMax has a full fantasy league that's full on. I think Rocky Mountain has one as well.
Okay.
And then there's Moto Bookie, which is kind of like a betting situation. It's kind of like,
are y'all gonna get like a Tommy Pham situation from this past year in Major League Baseball, where there's gonna be a fight during a race and people are gonna like, why are they didn't crash into each other? It's just over fantasy football. It comes out later that's what it was, a bad trade that they were not a fan of or something like that.
I was not aware of that.
Yeah, Tommy Pham, like there was a Major League Baseball feud. I think it was Jock Peterson and Tommy Pham where they got into a fight and they're not on the same team, and it was just because it was a fantasy football related issue.
Oh boy.
Yeah. They take it serious, man. Fantasy football, it's a religion.
Well, there's a lot of, like, at least at the top, wherever the people in Vegas and playing and whatnot, there's a lot of money that can go into that stuff.
Yeah.
So it's a big deal.
It's a big deal. When you're not racing, what are you doing? Wow, I just got something stuck in my throat. Sorry. I'm so sorry. That just like really caught me up. Anyway, when you're not racing, what are you doing?
Honestly, it goes, at least in Supercross season, it goes back to primarily work. So obviously training, riding, and I do my own bike work. I don't have a mechanic or anything like that, so that absorbs a lot of time. On top of that is going through, you know, keeping sponsors happy, just PR work, discussing ideas with them, marketing strategies and whatnot. Obviously, finding helmet wraps and bike branding, so different companies that want to support us at select rounds or individual rounds. Moranz Mafia stuff. So that's obviously the whole Patreon system I have that fans can support me. So keeping on top of all that stuff. Social media for not only my stuff, but the Moranz Mafia stuff. Like, I could go on and on, you know, travel, figuring out flights, hotels. There's so much that goes into it that nobody really understands.
And you're doing all of it.
Yeah, it's a full-time gig, but I love it. That's like why I have such a creative program, is I truly do love the business side of things just as much as I do the racing and riding side of things. So it keeps a very happy medium going in my heart to keep me going and drive, which is good. So we've had a lot of growth over the last couple of years, but it's because I truly enjoy both sides of it, which then obviously creates a kind of a perfect program.
If you had to look at just the rest of this season for you, what are your goals? What are you looking to still take care of the rest of the way here?
So right now we are within the top 20 in points. There's a very close battle between, guys like Cade, Starling, Cartwright, me, Chiz, Grant Harlan's pretty close up there too. So it's going to be kind of a dogfight to try to get top 20 in points, because top 20 in points, I believe 20th gets a $10,000 bonus, and then $1,000 added on top of that for every place down. So like 19th will get $11,000. So there's a lot of us that are in that 18 to 23 range that are very close. So goal for me is to try to end up top 10 or top 20 in points. Try to make every main from this point on. Obviously, to end up top 20 in points, I'm going to have to do that. And then, yeah, man, it's just clicking off, trying to get another whole shot maybe, and leading a little bit longer, and just continuing to try to prove myself to hopefully get an opportunity on one of these factory rides.
There you go. I love it. We'll wrap up with this. What can you plug? What can the good folks, I know we talked about it a little bit with Patreon and everything else, but how do people support you listening to this very program at this moment?
Yes. KevinMoranz.com is where you can find everything. I have to give a quick shout out to Tank Masters, Koi, Gree, Champion, Canvas. There's a lot of great people that are a part of the program. However, if you want to join the program, KevinMoranz.com, hit that Join Moranz Racing tab, or Moranz Mafia tab. You can join in as a Patreon. Anything from $5 to, I think, $200 is our max tier. Certain tiers get you different benefits. We do giveaways, goggles, signed number plates, stuff like that. You can get your name on the bike, helmet wraps, all sorts of stuff. So everything's at kevinmoranz.com. So I appreciate everybody tuning in. We do a vlog every single weekend as well. So go check it out on YouTube, Instagram, moranz.80. Other than that, grab some merch and support the program.
Man, I thought I was busy and I'm out here grinding. And then you're just like, I'm never going to be like, yeah, I work a lot. I work really hard. It's going to be like, no, not compared to Kevin. Like somehow Kevin is just like another level that I didn't know you could get to.
Well, I appreciate that.
Well, there you go. Kevin, good luck the rest of the way. And I'd love to talk to you again soon.
Indeed.
Well done, nephew. Chase Thomas Podcast. Hell yeah.